can't seem to clear my throat.
Cold. That's fine.
So Wendell, how are you doing? We're on a
I sang the bass part, but I switched to and I took German in high school.
Would anyone like to
So I'm having
do
done
from
trouble.
your shall receive?
Yes, I'll do this side, because I missed that side.
Are you okay to do that?
That's the prettiest song. He just keeps everything.
Yes, it's the same.
Right. UUCG turns out very good. DNA.
And we're going to sing all the verses of comes to the song.
You find it a person
Oral conducting graduates in most of the
I'm just really impressed with Bill. He's very demanding.
He's had a choral activity. I started singing choral stuff. Oh, yeah. I looked at it today.
So Ray right? Your flowers are over there on a frame and underneath them are the flowers.
Okay, I think Rebecca's doing some flowers. No. Well, I didn't write it down here. Who's doing what?
Great question. Oh wait, no, it's your turn.
Right, no, I know what I'm sorry. Who's giving the flowers and who's giving the I think you put his emails, of course, if you printed
I think I did. I think it's just like hand them out.
Okay, so who do you want to?
Well, I haven't
You want me to give the flowers then?
Yeah, I don't see Rebecca yet.
And you will tell me.
At the end. So turn this over. Your flowers. Right. So you're saying on behalf of Lola. So it may be that you say this and Rebecca gives the stuff. Right? Gives the flowers. Right?
And then what about the books?
Same. It's like you get flowers, you get a book. Yes. Perfect. Great. Excellent. Great. And if there's no Rebecca, then you send it off. I'll do it. Great. Like a normal one. Yes. Our story this morning is part of an old Jewish story. It's a couple hundred years old, and it's about a converso from Portugal. A converso is a Jewish person who converts to Catholicism for safety reasons rather than religious reasons. This is the word for someone who pretended not to be Jewish in order to be safe. In the mid-1500s, a long time ago, a converso from Portugal moved to the holy city of Safed. He was safe there to be Jewish and to practice his religion.
One day, he heard the rabbi speaking about the ancient practice of offering bread in the temple as a ritual before God. The rabbi said that Jewish people used to bake special bread with really, really, really specific ingredients to get it just right so that God would be pleased with their work. But the rabbi was sad that they didn't do it anymore.
Now, this man and his wife were both bakers. So you can imagine that he was very excited about the possibility of using their skills to do something nice for God. He went home to his wife and tried to remember as best he could all the very special instructions to make it exactly right. And he asked her to try to bake this bread. And she did. And he said he wanted to give these loaves of bread as a gift to God, and hopefully God would eat them. So she made the bread.
He took the bread over to the synagogue early on Friday afternoon before Shabbat services, the holiest night of the week. He brought the bread under his cloak, and he prayed, and he offered the bread to God, saying that he hoped God would enjoy the fresh baked bread specially prepared. He placed the loaves of bread wrapped up in the Holy Ark beneath the Torah scrolls, the old scrolls central to Jewish synagogues and temples that have written on them in Hebrew the story of the Jewish people. And then he left.
Then the shamash came in. The shamash is the person who takes care of the synagogue, making sure everything is clean and prepared for Shabbat. Part of his job was to check on the Torah scrolls because they're so important. When he opened the ark, he saw, to his surprise, fresh bread. And he took the bread home and ate it, rejoicing in the gift that God had left for him.
And they were delicious. The shamash was delighted with this unexpected fringe benefit of his job.
That evening, the baker waited for the prayers to end and all the people to leave. He approached the ark and opened its doors, and what did he see? Nothing. Yes, the bread was not there. He was so happy, he ran home to tell his wife that God had indeed eaten their bread. And his wife was so moved by the idea of God eating her bread that she asked him, should we do this every week? And so they did. They baked fresh bread together every week, carefully following the special ritual instructions. And every Friday night, he checked to see if they were gone, and they were. Because every Friday afternoon, the shamash came in to clean and prepare and take care of the place, and happily, rejoicing, he took home his bread.
So it went for many weeks and months, until one day the baker was a little bit late in delivering the bread to the ark, and the shamash came a little bit early. The baker put the loaves in and prayed that God would accept them, and then he turned around to find the shamash ready to receive his bread. They couldn't believe it. The shamash said, "You were making and leaving the bread for me. I thought it was God." And the baker said, "You were enjoying the bread we were so carefully making. And I thought it was God." And they clasped hands, knowing in that moment that they were called to be the hands of God for each other.
The end. Welcome to worship at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Greensboro. I'm the Reverend Sadie Lansdale, and I am the minister of this congregation. Unitarian Universalists believe that each person has a trustworthy relationship with the Spirit, with the Holy, with the source of all life, with what some call God, though we name it and we know it differently from one another. And we believe that because we are interconnected, no one is free until we all are free. So we strive to create beloved community here on earth in our fellowship with one another and in our work for justice. Whether today is your first or your 1000th Sunday in our midst, we are stronger because you are with us. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, and all loved. Should you have your cell phone on in church making noise? Should you take your mask off? Our ministry team here at UUCG is Cindy Dillard, our Director of Children's and Youth Ministry, Julie Hamilton, our Congregational Administrator, and Luke Stegleather, our Experimental Director of Music.
Carol Webb will light our chalice. Please join me in our chalice lighting words found in your order of service. We light this chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, to remind us to connect in spirituality and service, to care for each other and the world, and to create loving community. Please rise in body or in spirit for our opening hymn, number 347, Gather the Spirit. If you're joining us in the sanctuary, won't you wave hello to everyone joining us online? If you're online, go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat. And if you're in person, let's greet our neighbors.
Circle for release. Circle for the planet. Circle for each soul. For the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom. Circle round for peace. For all of us in prison. Circle for release. Circle for the planet. Circle for each soul. For the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Very quiet. Circle round for freedom. Circle round for peace. For all of us in prison. Circle for release. Circle for the planet. Circle for each soul. For the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. How beautiful it is to be together. We gather in gratitude this morning, turning our hearts to thanks and praise for the gift of living, in the presence of the Spirit that animates all life, and in the knowledge that we are powerfully and profoundly connected to all that is, all that has been, and all that will be. During these few minutes of silence, you can focus on something you're grateful for, someone you are remembering, especially today, or just the sensation of your chair supporting you. Will you find the most comfortable place in your seat and take a few easy breaths as we settle into our silence together. We bring all the echoes in our hearts before our community and before the holy in this sacred space and time. If you're online, this is the time to share your joys and sorrows with one another in the chat. If you're in person and you have a milestone you would like added to our prayers, you can fill out a yellow card, which the ushers will collect. If you have a joy, you may come forward and place a flower or a sprig in the vase. If you have a sorrow, you can place a stone in the bowl. If there's someone who's special to you on your heart today, you can light a candle of prayer or presence for them. And if you're feeling a little fidgety or you don't know how you're feeling, there are pipe cleaners in the back, or perhaps you've brought your own needlework. In church, we practice becoming more fully human. This is our time to take stock of how we arrive here and to take what we need, knowing the table is set for us all. Will you join me in prayer and presence? Spirit of life and love, God of many names and beyond all name, source of all. In this moment, surrounded by beauty and bathed in silence and song, we offer our joys and sorrows alike, knowing they are woven fine. We join our hearts with those who sorrow. Steve Andrews' brother Mike Andrews passed away this week. And Steve, our prayers are with you. Where's Steve? Our prayers of comfort and love are with Steve and with Mike and his family. Both Alex Moore and Betsy Lindsay are offering thoughts and grieving the loss of life to those affected by last night's shooting at an LGBTQ club in Colorado Springs, and another shooting at the University of Virginia. Our prayers of sorrow and rage are with them and all who love them, as well as prayers for remembrance and resilience and comfort to all those who are afraid and all those who lost loved ones. We join our hearts with those who rejoice. And on Friday, Mariah Brown turned 38 years old. Mariah, our prayers of joy and gratitude for your life. Brenna Ragianti offers prayers of gratitude for the Reverend Polly Murray, as today is their birthday. Thank you, Reverend Murray, for your tireless civil rights activism and your gender equality efforts. You are remembered. What is often called exceptional ability is nothing more than persistent endeavor. Prayers of gratitude for Reverend Polly Murray's stubbornness, among other things, and for their life. Finally, Carol Webb is thankful for people to make music with. Our prayers of gratitude are with you, Carol. We name aloud or in the chat those people on our hearts, living or dead, near or far, that this community might hold them in prayer and in love. On the day that we welcome new members formally into this community, I offer you a prayer from the poet Nancy Schaefer called Prayer for This Church. May each one among us have skin that longs to touch other skin, fingertips that long for other fingertips or whole hands or even arms, bodies that want to stand next to other bodies, not alone, while singing and bending, stirring soup. May ones whose skin doesn't cry out for other skin wish it did, and so teach it, so that no one stands alone, and no one aches and does not say so. May our doors be so open it is drafty inside. And people sometimes shout because noises without also come within. May those sheltered here sometimes cry all at once, letting tear water clean what words by themselves cannot. In silent times, may everyone present hear everyone else breathing, and know this is not separate from how the world breathes all night. May we always have enough room for those many who want to come in. May those who cherish this church be so glad they cannot stop speaking, stop asking, and may that crowding itself be a gladness as we keep adding rooms. May we notice each one who is new and invite her to stay. May our list of names for the holy not ever be finished, and may we hear God chuckling with us as we find still more. We ask this blessing for ourselves, for those we love, and for all those we do not yet love. Amen. Circle round for freedom. Circle round for peace. For all of us imprisoned. Circle for release. Circle for the planet. Circle for each soul. You're the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. In your order of service, it says reflection, Reverend Sadie Lansdale. But this one is much more an occasion for your reflection. I'll tell you 2 stories. The first one is called At the City Gates by Margaret Silf. An old woman sat at the gates of a city called Mychester, and she welcomed travelers who wished to enter there. And one day a traveler came from somewhere far away. I need the name of a city. Where'd they come from? Albuquerque. From Albuquerque. So someone made the arduous and long journey from Albuquerque to Mychester. And when they got to Mychester, the woman at the gate said, "Welcome. Would you like to sit with me a little before you go in?" And the traveler said yes. Their feet hurt and they were weary. It's a very long way from Albuquerque to Mychester. And they sat down with the woman, and she said, "Tell me, what are the people like in Albuquerque?" And the traveler said, "Oh, they're just awful. They are not friendly, and they are not kind, and they're very annoying, and they're selfish, and they don't care about each other, and they don't care about me." And the woman said, "Well, I'm terribly sorry to tell you this, but the people in Mychester are very much like the people in Albuquerque." Now, the next day, another traveler came, and they came from a different place. Where did they come from? Oh, so quick. Okay, they came from Australia. Now, it is a very long way from Australia to Mychester. And the traveler came up to the woman, and she said, "Please, would you like to take a seat with me before you enter the city?" And the traveler said, "Yes, thank you so much. My feet hurt, and I'm tired because it is such a long way from Australia to Mychester." And the woman said, "Please, won't you tell me what the people are like in Australia?" And the traveler said, "Oh, they're wonderful. They're thoughtful and they're kind, they're compassionate, they care for each other, they care for the world. They're friendly." And the woman said, "Well, the people in Mychester are very much like the people in Australia. Welcome." This is the first occasion for your reflection. I've heard it said that wherever you go, there you are. But here's another one, and this one's true from my life.
And I advise you to live your lives in such a way that you never become the kind of person that preachers want to tell stories about to make a point. When I was in seminary, I went to school in New York, and I went to school in New York City, and some friends and I were invited to a very large service at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. This is a really, really large building, and they have a St. Francis Day service. It's open to the public. It's enormous. They play whale songs over their speaker in their huge, huge cathedral, and they bring in camels and stuff. It's like Blessing of the Animals on steroids. It's wild. And so you have to get tickets for this event, and we had, some seminary friends and I had a classmate who was working at St. John the Divine. And so she got us tickets, and on the invitation it said, "Families welcome." And my friends had a 1.5-year-old, and so we got him a little ticket too, and we all went over, and they had him in the stroller, and he was asleep. And we walked in, and an usher came up to us, and we could tell she was an usher because she was wearing all black, and she had a red flower pinned to the lapel of her jacket. And she came over to us and she said, "Welcome, can I help you find your seats?" And so we explained that the kid was sleeping and we had the stroller. There are no pews in this large cathedral, there are chairs, which we kind of wondered maybe one could be shuffled so we could park the stroller with the sleeping child in it next to the parents. And she said, "No, we can't do that, but what we can do is that in the very, very back of the cathedral, kind of toward the right, there's a little tiny chapel. And in that chapel, a bunch of people with sleeping children in strollers have been instructed to park their strollers. And then you, the parent, can sort of stand like near-ish the chapel, so you can keep one eye on your sleeping child in the stroller, and you can kind of sort of not really be able to see everything else that's going on." And they said, "Well, the invitation said that families are welcome, and we don't feel very welcome." And this is the part you never want to do. This lady said this. She went, "Oh, we're welcoming here. We are welcoming." And we left. And as we were walking out, the husband of the couple was a seminary classmate of mine, and we looked at each other and we were like, if that lady didn't just make herself a sermon illustration for the rest of my working life. We are welcoming here. Anyway, if you've ever done anything like that, there's time. You can come around and you can make amends for that and not do it again. Nobody's condemned, but wow. The purpose of the church is to notice and praise and magnify the power of love in the world. Not just in here, but out there. As our choir sings, this is the time for any of you who have baked bread to bring it forward. And we will bring it after service to a community fridge set up by Greensboro Mutual Aid in Warnersville. Many years ago, in the church that's now served by a very dear friend of mine, there was a guy named John who made date nut bread. And John made this bread all the time, and he brought it to church, and everybody knew about John's bread. And about 20 years ago, John was diagnosed with cerebral palsy, and it got progressively worse. And he lost the ability to create the bread himself. When he eventually, I think, lost the ability to come in the building. But this is a very large congregation, and they had their act together with the live streaming well before many of the rest of us did. So he remained connected to the community watching service online. During the pandemic, suddenly all the small groups went online, and so he had the opportunity to be much more involved in church. And when the building opened and more activities started taking place inside the church building, a small group of people, most of whom lived alone, began a baking ministry. And on Friday mornings, they would gather in the large commercial grade kitchen of this church, and they would make just a whole ton of baked goods. And they'd bring them to church on Sunday and offer them at coffee hour and to all the volunteers. And someone from this baking group reached out to John and got his recipe. And they began to bake John's date nut bread. And several of the folks who've been around the church for a while recognized it immediately. And when the minister called John to tell him that that people were not just baking his bread, but other people were recognizing it and saying, you know, John's bread is back. He said it was the best day of his life. There are many ways that the good work of our hands lives on through us and through those whose lives we touch. It is in this way that the Spirit moves among us. It is in this way that we take up the charge to be the hands of God for one another and for our community. With creativity, with openness to change, with respect for the traditions that are most precious to us, and with faith that the beautiful things will find a way to endure, though perhaps in different forms and by different hands. There are always new ways emerging to join together to feed the world and to shift the balance of power so that no one goes hungry. Whether baked or bought, we offer the gift of this bread to our community. And in so doing, learn and create new ways to feed the world. May it be so for you and so for us all. Amen.
The tide is rising, and so are we. Tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. Storm is raging, and so are we. The storm is raging, and so
Rabbi Shoshana Friedman wrote that song for a climate protest, and when she was arrested, she handed her guitar to her father, and as she was like driving away, she yelled out the window of the cop car, "It's in D!" And he continued to play up and down the generations and around the forces that seek to divide us. The beautiful things find a way to endure. Will Rebecca Kay and Betsy Lindsay come forward for our new member blessing?
I am excited to invite our new members forward for this blessing. So when I call your name, you'll come and stand here. Dave Block, Dory Block, Carrie Helton, Sharon Burkett, James Lilly, and Joanna Lauer. Look at them, don't they look great? I'm so excited. Continuing members of our congregation, will you please rise? If you're joining us online, you can type in the chat when we get to the time to make our promises. So that's just for y'all. I see you over there. Will you welcome these members as once you were welcomed yourselves? If so, say, "We will."
We will.
Will you seek to be open and inclusive, respecting their inherent dignity, their ideas, and their vision, in times when it is easy and in times when it is difficult? If so, say, "We will."
We will.
Will you seek to be supportive, not only when they reach out in courage to you, but also when they need you to reach out to them? If so, say, "We will."
We will.
Will you, the congregation, welcome them as equal members of this congregation and companions on our shared spiritual journey? If so, say, "We will."
We will.
Will you, new members, journey with us in faith, bringing your whole selves to this community as we seek the Spirit and seek to live our values together? If so, say, "We will." Will you abide by the church covenant in times when it is easy and in times when it is difficult, knowing that the rest of us also fail and also fall short and also are human? If so, say, "We will." Will you take responsibility for your own personal spiritual path, knowing you are joining a community of love and support? If so, say, "We will." Will you show up, sharing in joy, celebration, responsibility, and mourning in their seasons, knowing that there is no church aside from each of you and all of us together? If so, say, "We will." On behalf of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Greensboro, it is my very great joy to welcome you as members of this church.
new members will lead us all in the church covenant with Joanna at the mic and everybody on the chancel. It is written here. Yeah.
We, the members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Greensboro, do covenant to promote a search for personal meaning, respecting the individual truth in a community process of quest. Speak and act with caring, courtesy, and love, thereby maintaining emotional, physical, and spiritual safety for all. Support UUCG and denominational efforts with our resources. Combat injustice while promoting equality. Nurture our children on their spiritual journey. Hold ourselves to this covenant, especially during times of conflict and disagreement.
This is the sound of one voice, one spirit, one voice, the sound of one who makes a choice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of voices too.
One of the ways that we live out our mission to create loving community is to contribute financially to the ministries of this congregation and to the good work of our community partners. One of the ministries of this church is our Minister's Discretionary Fund, which is available to anyone in a tough spot. We can help with medical bills, rent, groceries, or other needs. Rev Sadie's email and phone number are on the back of your order of service, or you can contact the church through our website. Our offering this month goes to the Church World Service Immigrant Solidarity Fund. They help immigrants with and without papers to apply for and receive financial support, whether they are affected by emergencies, disasters, or the activity of ICE. You may remember the Share Your Check project, which encouraged people who received stimulus checks to contribute some of that money to share with those who were not eligible. If you'd like to make a contribution for our offering to be split with the Immigrant Solidarity Fund, you can do so at the link in the description of this video. You can text GIVE to the number in your order of service. You can also mail a check. Ushers will come forward to collect the offering, which will now be gratefully received. Will you join me in our chalice extinguishing words? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
If you're online and you'd like to get more connected, you can click the link in the description of this YouTube video and fill out our contact card and let us know how to be in touch. If you're in person, you can fill out the pink form at the visitors table. You can also fill out the contact card on our website, and you can stick around for our adult religious exploration after service today in the sanctuary. We are beginning the end of what we've been working on this fall. The class today is Definitions for God. So our music transition work continues. We're going to figure out how to make Reverend Patty's report available to congregants, but not necessarily available to like anyone, like the whole world, you know what I'm saying? So it just takes a little figuring out how to do that. So stay tuned. We're also integrating the findings from our survey and Cindy's conversation with the youth group based on the small group listening sessions that many of the rest of y'all did. So there is no rush. This is going to take a while, but we have it, and we're going to figure out how to make it available so that anyone who's interested can read, okay? Here's a question for you. Who makes the coffee?
We do.
Okay, so what do you think will happen next Sunday if no one signs up to make the coffee?
No coffee.
There will be no coffee if no one signs up to make the coffee. However, if you feel the Spirit moving you to email Kate Katahdin and make the coffee for next Sunday, you are more than welcome to do that. The trick is that if you don't already know how, I'm not sure that anyone will be available to teach you next Sunday. So in your order of service, you find Kate's email and maybe her phone number. And if someone is moved to caffeinate the congregation, then by all means do so. And if not, then we'll see what happens after that. Similarly, Thanksgiving dinner. When is it?
Thursday.
It's on Thursday. It is much, much easier for the hosts if you're planning to come if you sign up. So they won't close the doors on you or anything, but it does make it a lot easier on the good people who are planning this Thanksgiving dinner if you sign up if you haven't already. Ken, what is the best way for them to do that? Great. Sign up sheet in the foyer, link in the newsletter. Finally, we have been considering moving worship to mask optional. And the news out of Wake Forest Baptist Hospital's pediatric ICU indicates that probably loosening our restrictions at this time is not wise. So we're not planning to tighten any, but we're also not planning to loosen any until after flu season. It is not actually COVID that they're seeing a lot of, but it's stuff like flu and RSV and other things. So we are trying to be responsible members of a community and keep a kind of check on our public health impact. So that's our plan. The other thing I would say, though, is that if you are someone who is not yet comfortable in person without masks, and you have on one of the blue surgical masks, the first thing you are going to want to do is upgrade to a KN95 or something like that, and we have a bunch of them in the church. So we can help you get a better quality, tighter fitting mask. If you are feeling concerned and you are not wearing a high quality, tight fitting mask, we can help you. Now that the holy announcements have ended, I offer you this benediction. The purpose of the church is to notice and to praise and to magnify the power of love in the world. May you go and do likewise. Amen. Rise in body or in spirit for a benediction hymn from this house.
From this house to the world, we will go hand in hand. From this house to the world, we will go hand in hand. From this
think you will, actually.